I own a small grocery store in the heart of the city. It's nothing special, just a modest shop that pays the bills and keeps me occupied. I've always prided myself on treating my customers well, but that day, a day I still carry guilt about, I let my biases get the better of me. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon, and an odd quietness filled the shop. The only sound was the rhythmic pattering of raindrops on the roof. I was restocking shelves when the bell above the door jingled, signaling someone had entered. I turned around to see a man walk in. His clothes were tattered, his hair disheveled, and he looked like he hadn't bathed in days. Honestly, he appeared homeless. He scanned the store, not casually, but with a purpose, as if searching for something specific. A wave of unease washed over me. My first thought was, is he here to cause trouble? I reminded myself to stay calm, but kept stealing glances at him as he made his way to the refrigerated drink section. When he picked up a bottle of water and headed toward the counter, I noticed his rough, dirty hands. Placing the bottle on the counter, he avoided looking directly at me. "How much?" he asked in a low voice. I hesitated for a moment. There was something odd about him. Instead of answering, I blurted, "Do you intend to pay for this?" He looked up, startled. His eyes, deep, tired yet kind, met mine. "Of course," he replied, and pulled out a crumpled note from his pocket. What I said next, I can't fully explain. Maybe it was the fatigue from the day, or the judgment I had already passed. "Look, if you're just here to loiter or cause trouble, you should leave." His face fell. He didn't argue or defend himself. Lowering his head, he placed the water bottle back on the counter and walked out into the rain. As the door closed behind him, guilt crept in. What if he really needed help? But I pushed the thought aside, convincing myself I'd done the right thing. About an hour later, another customer walked in, Mr. Kapoor, a regular. He's the kind of person who knows everyone and everything happening in the city. While browsing, his phone buzzed, and he excitedly showed me a photo. "Can you believe this?" he said, pointing at the screen. It was a news article about a famous actor, Kabir Malhotra. The headline read, "Undercover for a role. Kabir Malhotra disguised as a homeless man." I stared at the screen, my heart sinking. The man in the picture, with his ragged clothes and messy hair, was the same person I'd kicked out of my store an hour ago. I couldn't believe it. Kabir Malhotra was one of the biggest names in the industry. His movies were blockbusters, and people queued for hours just to catch a glimpse of him. And here I was, judging and insulting him, throwing him out. A deep sense of shame and regret overwhelmed me. How could I have been so blind? Determined to make things right, I grabbed my umbrella and stepped out into the rain, hoping to find him. The streets were crowded, and the chances of spotting him were slim. But I kept searching, calling out, "Sir, please wait, let me talk to you." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I saw him sitting on a bench at the corner of the street. He was completely drenched, but didn't seem to mind. Slowly, I approached, trying to find the right words. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice barely audible over the rain. He looked up, surprised to see me. "I didn't recognize you," I admitted, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. "I judged you without knowing anything. Please forgive me." For a moment, he said nothing. Then, to my astonishment, he smiled. "It's okay," he said. "People judge all the time. I'm used to it." His words were kind, but stung deeply. A man who had every reason to be angry chose peace instead. I offered to take him to a nearby cafe for coffee, and to my relief, he agreed. Over steaming cups, we talked, not as a shopkeeper and a celebrity, but as two people. He shared stories about going undercover and explained how he wanted to understand what it felt like to be invisible, overlooked, and misunderstood. When we parted ways, I realized I had learned something invaluable, not just about him, but about myself. I understood how quick I was to judge, and how easy it is to assess things only from the surface. The next day, Kabir Malhotra sent someone from his team to my store with a handwritten note. It read, "Thank you for the coffee and conversation. Don't be too hard on yourself. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we grow from them." That note is now framed on my wall, a daily reminder to look beyond appearances and treat everyone with kindness, because you never know who they truly are or what silent battles they might be fighting.